Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Sackhoff Show. I am your host, Katee Sackhoff, and welcome to this week's episode. I am so excited about this episode. But first, I want to remind you guys that stick around for after we answer your questions and we get into the Mailsack. I still can't say it with a straight face because I love it so much. But we're going to answer all your questions. We're going to talk about the episode. And I also want to let you all know this is our last video episode. So soak it in, watch it a million times. You're going to want to because it is my friend, Tait Fletcher. If you guys don't know who Tait Fletcher is, he plays Heavy Mando on Mandalorian, and he is one of the coolest people in the entire world. I have known Tait since, we talk about it in the episode, but I have known Tait since Longmire, when he was brought in to actually choreograph a fight and help me train to learn how to fight Gina Rodriguez for Longmire. So it was a really fun episode. We get into it. He is a phenomenal human being. I know you know who Tait is. I'm actually really excited that this is our last episode on camera because if you don't know who he is, you will know his face. I promise you. He is the bad guy. He's the bad guy that kills people. He's the bad guy that dies in like every action movie you've ever seen. So you will know him, you will love him, and you will get to know him a lot better because he opens up in such a beautiful way for this episode. With that being said, stick around. If you are not subscribed and haven't found us on audio, you can do that right here on YouTube, or you can go find us wherever you find your podcast. So go ahead and do that because we will have a new episode again next Tuesday as well, audio only. So I will get out of your way and tell you guys to enjoy Tait.
Yes.
So we were having this whole wonderful conversation, but I do want to talk to you about your brain injury because, like I said, we were talking about conversations and podcasts and your podcast,
right? And when I started mine, and then why it ended, and all that.
Yeah, and it ended because you said so. Pirate Life went from 2014 to like 2019,
right?
And it was a head injury that sort of stopped that.
Yeah, and you'd ask what was the
the catalyst,
and so there's a lot of head injury before then. And what I was saying is that it's like any kind of traumas that you get in life, is that there's this idea that like thank God I got through that. Whether it's a relationship, whether it's a physical thing, whether it's whatever it is, there's this sense that life is still coming, so I still have to contend with life.
Yeah,
and I never regarded any of those things as sticky. I never regarded any traumas from early on as even traumas. That's just life.
When you say sticky, you mean something that's going to come back and stick to you.
Yeah. What I mean is like, oh, that thing when I was 23 affected every relationship I ever had with a woman ever since then. Like that kind of thing, right? And you go, oh my God, I just noticed that, and how of course that's what happened. So head injuries are kind of like that. And to the degree that I got smashed on a stunt that went horribly wrong on a show called Free Guy, and I got knocked unconscious. I was on a wire and I was out for 5-6 minutes. And
it's a long time to be out for
terrifying.
A concussion.
One of the things that I just wept over was my friend Haley Wright was on one side of me, and Antal Khalik was on the other side. And I thought they sat there with me with this body, wondering what's going to happen for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is, and so I've seen guys that have been put out like that, and it's extensive. So what happened for me then was something called post-concussive syndrome. And there's a degrading psychic abyss that you kind of wind into over the next few days, months, for me that lasted into years. And I'd gone to the hospital, I got cleared, I was supposed to leave Boston from that job the next day anyway. And I thought, well, maybe I ought to stay a couple more days. And then I called the front desk when I got back to the hotel from the hospital, and they said, we're booked, but you can go to our sister hotel. And I thought, that's too confusing. I'm not sure how I would do that. I'm not sure how I'd have to get in a car, I guess. And I can't do that. And so simple things were becoming difficult. I went to dinner with my friends. The next morning I better just go with Antal back to LA. And I thought, I don't know how to get my stuff out of here. Like to be able to pack a bag, like simple things were becoming impossible. And so I got back home, and my girlfriend at the time, she'd really gone into deep research. I got into hyperbarics right away. Went to the hospital, the doctor here right away that, the insurance and all that says to go to, and they say, take fish oil. I go, we're doing that. We're doing this, that. I've got stem cells set up. What else should we do? She said, I don't have any opinion on any of that. If you don't feel better in 8 months, come back and we'll give you Alzheimer's medicine. And I go, you're telling me to kill myself.
Yeah.
Like that's not an option here. And so things just got dark from there. Then 2020 happens. I end up winding everything up and just going back to New Mexico. And I go, I'm just going to be quiet in the mountains. Like the noise, everything was hurting me. I couldn't go to a grocery store. I've become as vulnerable as I ever been in my life. I'd never felt that vulnerable. I mean, maybe in utero I was that vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I look like me. So it's confusing for people, right? And so I just stayed home. I never left the house. I couldn't go outside in the daylight because the sun would hurt me. All of that. And that's how a couple of years was. I was in several brain clinics that helped me periodically, and it's just been a long road back in that way. Thinking of that too, I thought, well, what am I going to do, man? I can't, because my play to get in, how do you get into an acting job, or how do you get it? And well, my way in was through stunts.
So what do you do if you can't do stunts?
So what am I now if I'm not this thing? Which is the same question when I'm done fighting. Well, who are you now that the lights are off? Like, what do you do now?
But this is a much more deep existential. These are the questions that people actually ask themselves if they're really conscious of their life and their circumstances. What do I do now?
Yeah.
If you're really trying
and who am I?
And who am I? Who do I want to be?
Yeah.
If you are living your life, I think in like a seeking type of way, those are the questions we should be asking. Yeah. But how traumatic and terrifying when you actually have to ask them because you don't know what you're going to do with your life.
Because here's the wall.
Because you just hit your breaking point.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting too. It's probably the questions that I'm so grateful for, because what I know now is that it's unavoidable. The questions we try to avoid, they become unavoidable. The thing I don't want to face, it becomes unavoidable. And so inside of that, I'm left, I'm on the couch, I'm sobbing every day. I've got dogs, and that's it. And there's a healing factor in that, I suppose. And every time I would get to the breaking point where I'm like, I got to kill myself. I can't carry this anymore. You become not yourself, is what I'd found. Like I become a thing other than me, and I don't recognize myself, and I feel it's got to end. And then when that would happen, a friend would call. Shane Dorian's wife, Lisa, she called me after I was off the phone with a friend of mine. He was like, well, what have you been doing? And because it was COVID times. And I said, oh, not much, hanging around the house. I said, I sob every day. I don't know why the tears just come on me. And then I sleep a lot, and my brain is like, wah, as soon as I wake up in the morning, and I try to get in an ice bath and I try to calm myself down. And I went for a ride in the truck yesterday with Hank, and my pistol, and looked for courage to shoot myself in the chest. And I'm just watching Netflix, and I'm going to get something to eat. What are you up to? It was like that kind of a matter-of-fact thing. And so a few minutes later, Lisa texts me, and she's like, you got to call Shane right now. He's with this guy that runs this brain treatment center. It's called braintreatmentcenter.com is how you can find it. And they shoot magnets in your head. So I called Shane, and I was like, and I got off the phone with Dozer, and I thought, well, how odd that Lisa's texting me. I couldn't connect those events, right? And those are the only way I knew them through each other.
Yeah.
And so I called Shane, and he says, he was with the guy that owns the place, and he says, I can't help everybody, but I think I can help you, and you got to come. And so I make a appointment to go. I'm going to be there in 2 days, and my mom comes over, and she says, and I'm in my position, I'm crying on the couch, and I'm like, and she says, I'm so glad you got hurt. And I go, tell me more. And she says, well, you know, I've been seeing a dark cloud kind of coming over you, and you've been like in not yourself for 10 years. I've been watching this slow ebb away from who my child is. And I go, Mom, it felt like a dark cloud was coming after me for all this time. And it brought me back to what, you know, Rogan had said one time we were cage side and we saw this guy get starched and he was out for 7 or 8 minutes, and which is a horrible thing to watch. This is like 2004 or 5 or something. And he goes, you know, the worst effects of brain injury don't come up till 10, 20 years later. And I'm sitting there on that couch and I'm thinking that, and I go, that's what all that was, is all these concussions. And so I don't even know that they're hurting me.
Yeah.
But what happens when you're hurt is a brain injury, it shifts your perspective of life. And so the viewfinder that I'm looking at life through is tilted. So I don't know that though, because that's my perception.
Yeah.
So you seem tilted. The world seems tilted. These guys, and so then I'm irritable and I'm uncomfortable and I'm not understanding in the same way that everybody else is. And that becomes clear in that moment. And she says, I'm so glad you got hurt because now you're looking into it. And it was the first time, and I'm happy for every lump I ever took, just because it did bring me to a place. I never knew how sick I was till I started getting better. And so then I start healing from that. And this whole thing about, like, you know, people like, I drive people crazy with my outlook on things. And they're like, well, what are you going to do about this or that? And I go, well, I suppose I'll pray about it and I'll meditate about it and I'll let it unfold and I'll try to stay out of the way. And they're like, that's not a decision, man. We got to make a decision. And I go, well, just give me some time to let this grow. Like, it's just a brand new idea. But there's this idea I have about, like, how to interact with a quantum field that solves your problems for you. And if I stay out of the way and I just do the work in front of me, the result's much better than if I try to get machinations about what the result might want to be.
Well, that's, in a sense, listening to your gut, right? You're giving your gut and your intuition the ability to come through in your silence and your introspection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that becomes the hard part, is like, how do I get my ego out of that discussion? And so that becomes the biggest thing, is like, how do I become, you know, ultimately honest, like in a real true deep way with myself, like an actualized ideal of honesty, not just like the idea of like, yeah, I'm honest. But 80% of the time, like, how do I get true with that? And so that's what I've tried to do. And that's what, I try to let my life unfold like. And so I'm in this terror about, well, I can't make a living now, because what would self-love look like? Would self-love look like you get punched by Thor and you're rocketed back against the wall?
Yeah.
Not really.
No.
You know what I mean? It doesn't look like you're on fire and you jump out of a window and go 60 feet to the ground. It doesn't look like that. I mean,
a lot of people have a fucked up idea of what self-love is.
Right?
But I don't think that's what it is.
At the point when I become damaged by the thing that I do instead of more resilient is the point when I have to make a change.
Well, that's what do they say? That is the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over and over again with the same result. You know,
well, now I've got people that love me that are going to see me die.
Right.
And so I literally can't do the same things that I was doing. And that hurts. It's like, I'd love to go and spar and kickbox with somebody, but there's no upside to that for me.
No, the longevity in that, you know, that's just being self-aware though. Like, I feel like as we age and as our bodies change and shift and become more mature, you have to listen to your body or it's going to betray you.
Sure.
You know, like,
there's
really
a result.
betray
There's
you.
a cause and effect that happens. Well, and so then I'm doing that, and then I go, I don't know where I'm going to work, I do Project Power with a Jamie Foxx show, and I was okay in the daytime, but then we went to nights, and that tore me apart.
It was just hard for your brain.
Exactly. Yeah, sleep patterns are very important when you're recovering, and I was early on. I was thinking that in the first year still of recovery. And then that Christmas, I went out, I think it was Magnum PI, I went out for it to Hawaii. Didn't do anything, just head reactions. I didn't know head reactions are, go, and then I stayed an extra week because I was going to go enjoy Hawaii. I couldn't leave the hotel room. The anxiety and everything was, and I go, God, you're hurt more than you thought. And so I keep getting better and trugging along. Then Mandalorian comes up as I'm having this self-love talk. And it's like, yeah, and there's 2 doubles for you. And I was like, whoa. And then I was like, and things shifted. And I go, God, look what God did.
Yeah.
And then the next thing happens, and it's beneficent towards my health more than it. And then, then guys come up in my life that I can be helpful to, that I can kind of show a process by which to better their lives. And like all these things start to work in unison. And isn't it funny when you start looking towards what good is or what nurturing is, how that increases?
So I just heard this wonderful thing, and I might get this wrong. It's hot in here, yeah?
Yeah.
Maybe because I flew here from a cold place and I'm dressed for freaking ice storms.
You're ready for it.
It's called the red car theory.
Okay.
If I asked you right now, when you came in here, how many red cars you saw on the way over, you wouldn't be able to tell me because you're not looking for them.
Yep.
But if I told you to look for the red cars, you'd be able to tell me exactly how many.
Right.
If we're not looking for miracles and we're not looking for luck, it's not going to happen. But if you're ready for them and you're looking for them, they happen every single day. It's just a perspective.
Yep. I love that. That tightens up an old idea I had about like, if I'm thinking about like, oh, I got to buy a car. What's that car? I'm going to get a Camry. Then all you see is Camrys everywhere. And there's a dude when I was fighting, this guy, Ed Soares, and he was Anderson Silva's manager too. He's a great guy. And I said, Ed, everybody loves you. Like, you're the most likable guy there is. Promoters love you. Fighters love you. And usually that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Usually somebody on either end is
side.
at odds with you.
Yeah.
I go, how is that? And he goes, well, I guess I only look for a good deal, Tait. And if it's a good deal for me and it's not a good deal for you, then it's not a good deal. And if it's a good deal for you and not me, then that's not a good deal. And eventually, the only deals that come to me are good deals because that's all I'm looking for.
That's all you're looking for.
I thought, God damn. And so I'm like, I had little peeks into like what I would think of this quantum field looks like. And it's something like that.
Yeah.
It's something where there's an ultimate goodness that unites everybody. Maybe Christians would call it like a Holy Spirit. Something like that.
Yeah. A common vibration that everybody feels when we're sort of operating on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Like everybody is just living in this thing, I think it's one of the things that attracts me to you is your ability to sit in stillness, be introspective, and self-aware and kind.
Yeah.
You're just like, every time I see you, you seem to always just be like super freaking chill. And it is a beautiful thing. And most people most people who don't know you,
of course,
would not expect that from you. And that's what I love
I'm visually
about it.
alarming.
A little bit. I want to talk about when we first met, but I want to go back to something you talked about.
I was thinking about that earlier today too.
Because you touched on 2 things that we spoke about in this episode, actually, that just aired with Dr. Quan Stewart. We talked about suicide a lot. We talked about depression. And I was curious because it sounds like what you're describing is a deep depression that came as a result of this culmination of brain injuries. But do you think that was there the entire time, or do you believe that the brain injury and that cloud that was following you was causing that?
For me, I felt disjointed since I was a child. And I'd always had suicidal ideations since I was 9 years old.
Really?
And felt lost inside it. And so this, like, to stick around was always a choice that I would have to dig in and go, I need to be relentless and resilient, and I need to stick around. Because the thing that I would come to is when I would get close to the edge is that I'd flash to my mother looking at my grave, and I go, I can't have her looking at me in a casket. I can't do that. And, and a lot of that was, marked an earlier path for me in a way. And then I think concussions were along the lines of that. And I don't know how much that causes depression anyway. But what happened after I was hurt, and I can talk more about like overcoming those things too. But what happened when I was hurt was more of a terror and a bewilderment about unbecoming yourself. Like I didn't recognize anything about me anymore. And I needed to go. Life was too confusing. I mean, it's already madness, you know, and to not have my faculties, and to say that too is like there's so much that goes on with massive head injury. I came in, one of the first doctors I went to, they do blood work on me, and she says, your testosterone is a 20. And I go, okay. And I go, well, I don't know what that means. And she goes, well, it should be somewhere between 300 and 1200. And I go, okay. And she goes, and your estrogen is higher than mine. And I go, and I'm just looking at the floor, and I was like, well, that's great. Cause I thought, here's something you can make me feel better at least. And you can market. I was like, that's good news.
Yeah, at least
for me.
Exactly.
Good news.
Exactly. There's a marker of and a potential thing to follow, thing to rectify.
All I heard was, you might make me feel better.
Yeah.
Is what I'd heard. And I said, well, is that common? You know, and she goes, a lot of people, you know, it shakes their HPTA axis. And she says, some people get diabetes when they hit their head. She says, all kinds of different things happen to people, the whole myriad, the whole spectrum. And then one thing that happens for sure is your brain wavelengths get altered. And so you have like 4 quadrants of your head that they look at for alpha, beta, theta, and delta brain waves, and they should be in unison. And when they checked mine with the EEG, when I went to Brain Treatment Center, it's also called Wave Neuro now. They have a home unit that you can do this with, but it starts to realign your brain waves, and you can read where you're at and where you're off center, and how these daily treatments of like half-hour treatments of getting magnets shot in your head kind of straighten you out to some degree.
Sounds
crazy.
Ridiculous, Tait. If you
yep.
told me,
I know.
hey, Katee, I can fix you.
I know.
We're going to shoot magnets into your body. I'd be like, there's the door.
Yep. It's wild.
If you are in a place where you have nothing else.
This is the end.
And that's it.
Yep.
Why not?
It's like guys I know, and I just got a study. I just got a study from Stanford University that a friend of mine runs this place down in Mexico. So there's a group, Dr. Kirk Parsley is my doctor, and he was helping this group called VETS. And Kirk is a Navy SEAL that then became a doctor through that experience, and then helped guys that he noticed they all had low T and low testosterone.
Yeah.
And he didn't know why, but all these psychological problems were happening from them. Well, what he then found was that they're all in complete concussive activities all day long, whether it's on a Zodiac, every time it hits a wave, another concussion. You're shooting a gun, let alone if you shoot a gun inside, concussion. And so it's like all of this is happening. So he's watching these guys that are warriors have this state of degradation. A lot of guys that came back that are about to kill themselves, and everybody calls it PTSD as if it's the horrors of war and this and that. And some of it may be that, but mostly it's concussion, explosions
it sounds like a massive
that are
amount
happening
of traumatic brain injury.
And so there's this thing called VETS, which is which Kirk turned me on to, and I went out to Coronado Island for one of their fundraisers, Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions. And so I'm thrown in a boat, combat athletes, vets, and kids with autism are all getting magnets shot in their head at this place I'm going to in Newport Beach. And then Kirk is like, hey man, come to this thing and you can talk to other guys. Cause that's another thing too, is like the language of recovery of brain injury. It's a different thing. It's a different thing when you're talking to somebody that knows what they're talking about because they've been through it, and guys that are trying to have empathy and be like, oh dude, I know I banged my head once too. And I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about. That kind of depression's not what I'm talking about. And so these are the strongest men in the world. I'm in the room with the most able-bodied, like dangerous people in the world, 500 of them or something. And we're at this thing, Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions. And what it is ambio healthcare, ambio sciences. And they do ibogaine therapies, and they go down and they save lives. And every guy that I've talked to that's gone through it has had a tremendous alteration of their brains, of their lives, of their familial capacities. And then they had studies to back it.
And what is the ibogaine?
Ibogaine it's a plant medicine out of Africa that is a root of a plant that they alkalize in some way and get the medicine from, and put guys through this treatment that is like a 4-day treatment. I mean, it happens within a day, and then there's some holding space for guys afterwards.
Does it have a psychedelic
I guess it would maybe be in that realm, but it's not that. It's a thing where you're in another place. You're in maybe a dream state or something like that for 12 hours or something like that. And you come out and it's a very dark day the next day. And then the day after, it's almost like your software got cleaned.
Sounds a lot like people who do psilocybin trips.
They talk about that. They talk about ayahuasca, right?
Ayahuasca
and ayahuasca they call the grandmother, and this is a medicine they call the master.
Wow. Okay.
And so it's a different world, but Stanford, this interesting thing is like, there's a lot of woo-woo stuff to all that kind of stuff,
Of course.
Aubrey Marcus and Kyle Kingsbury have been real proponents of that. Kyle was a MMA fighter, and they've been on the forefront of that, MAPS and all of that, and trying to get people help in psychedelic therapies. This I would put in a different category than that. But anyway, Stanford does a test. They test, 5 or 8 of the veterans that are going down there. They do brain scans, MRIs, deep work on mapping their brains, and they can see the damage. And they go down and they come back a week later and they do it and it's cleared. It's like it's all different on a physical level, which is a trip to me.
Yeah. Is it the same type of brain injury that football players are experiencing?
Yeah. I mean, all of that stuff, I see it ever since I got hurt. And I watch little kids and they bump and they're dizzy and everybody laughs. I cry.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know you're killing children.
Yeah.
And you're for sure marking, to say killing maybe is hyperbolic, but you're marking their course to be marred.
Yeah.
And you're altering this most beautiful mechanism of our creation, our minds, in a way that is darkening. You're throwing blankets on top of it.
Robin and I talk about that a lot. Like
It's
if we
dangerous.
had a son, if we would allow them to play football. And I know that that's a trigger word for a lot of people when you say allow your child to do something. But I would do everything in my power to dissuade them. And I have family members who are professional football players.
Absolutely.
And it's that consistent hitting of the head.
Yep.
Can't be good.
It's like I see guys in MMA and they, especially guys that weren't something that want their kids to be something. And they're like, and you see these 12-year-olds going at it. And I wouldn't not want my child to be able to defend themselves.
Of course.
But I would never have them spar. I would have them hit mitts. Nobody needs to, Robbie Lawler is a great example of an athlete that, he's one of the toughest guys in MMA. And he never spars. And he came out, 8 years ago or something and said that. He just don't spar. I already know I'm tough. And that's what sparring is. Can I still perform under horrific conditions when I'm really fatigued or when I'm beaten down? And can I still answer the bell?
Yeah.
I don't need to know that. I need to know timing and everything else. But when I spar and I get hit, I take my timing away. Yeah. I rob myself of the very thing I'm trying to get. And we don't see that in combat sports or in football or hockey or even soccer. Soccer, there's a tremendous amount of head injuries because we put this thing on, don't be a pussy. And,
for men,
and
for sure.
and it's like, just get some grit. And there's a lot to that. I understand the concept of that, but I also understand that we're damaging people in a way that they're not going to come back from. And maybe there's another way we can have that conversation. What I've tried to do anyway in my conversations is like, I hit up, I go, the end result of TBI is suicide. It's just what it is. There's a response. What's that?
Why do you say that? If you see a road to treatment?
Because most people don't find the road, and most people get like me, where they have all this darkness. They never have an event that makes them look at it.
Right.
And we see, the whole front line of the San Diego Chargers kills themselves after they win the Super Bowl or whatever. It's like we see crazy. I see a guy last year or 2 years ago, and he's almost knocked out on a Sunday, and then he plays Monday night again, and they put him back. And we're using people up in the most grotesque way that we're not even acknowledging. Football didn't acknowledge that it gave head injuries, I don't think, until 2013 or 14. Recently. It's insane. And so I said, NFL, WWE, UFC, and I tagged Dana and Vince McMahon and whoever I thought might listen. There's a responsibility to have the conversation and to have treatments in place. And so I'm like, let's get brain treatment at part of the UFC headquarters. Let's go ahead and have athletes come so it extends their careers and so that they can see actually, oh my God, that thing did affect me and this does make me feel better. And they can start to look towards like, what would ongoing treatment be? Because I'm going to need it. It's not if it's going to happen to me. If you're in those sports, it's happening to you. It's going to happen. It's going to.
Do you get pushback from
Dana says I'm on it.
Is he?
He says I'm on it. And I got to trust that, but I want to follow up on the conversation to go, what is that? Because we don't even know best practices. I've had stem cells. I've had magnets.
I was going to ask, cold therapy. Treatment,
hyperbarics are tremendous.
My dad has a hyperbaric chamber because of that.
Yep. Yeah. Tremendous. You want to be at 2 atmospheres or better. Yeah. Like 2 atmospheres, 2.5. A lot of the bags and stuff, which I got in, I used what I had. I think they go to 1.4, 1.6. I don't know that it doesn't, I don't know what it does or doesn't do as far as efficacy. Yeah. I know when I go in at 2.0 for an hour or 90 minutes, that I come out and I'm a different spot.
That's
and even
the big
today,
machine, right?
Yeah, big steel. It's like you're in a submarine almost. Yeah. And there's steel encased ones that can get that.
My dad goes in with his phone.
Yeah.
He just goes in and he's like,
The one I go to down at Chipsa Hospital, my friends own this cancer hospital, and they become one of the cutting edge stem cells of Central America. They make them there, embryonic stem cells. Yeah. And they inject them. They do intrathecal. Also, my friend, I know it sounds like intrathecal.
It does, because I was like, so do they put it in your tooth
spine?
And then, okay.
In your spinal column.
Because that was what I initially thought.
A friend of mine.
That sounds horrifically painful.
Yeah.
So do they go to the outside, like ozone therapy and PRP, or do they go into the joint?
They go in, they'll go into the joints. With all of that, they use ultrasound to find out exactly. They do MRIs first, and then they go, where is the damage? And they go directly in. They do IV, and then they do this thing intrathecal because another thing that had happened was I'd had a stroke where I woke up paralyzed last October, like a year and a couple months ago.
So your body, literally, in the span of like 3 years, was like,
it's crazy. Slow it down.
Slow down.
And so after that happened, my friend Ed Clay and Scotty that own this hospital, they go, hey man, will you talk to my friend? He's a musician. And I go, cool, man. And so I talked to this guy, and he's playing like 200 tour dates a year, and he's got a cyst or something in his brain, knotted. And they say it only blows in like 2% of the people. You're fine, and we'll just take it down with like external lasers and stuff. And he's working with the guy. It ends up blowing on stage, and he dies on stage. And he gets rushed, and they save his life. And they say, we'll have to teach you how to walk again. And he goes, man, I shoot all my meat out of a deer blind in a tree, and I'm getting my wife pregnant this year. Like that's not on the. It's learning to walk is. Of course, I'm going to walk.
Of course.
And they go, we'll see, you know what I mean? And he goes down this road, and Scotty, and I talked to him, and he says, yeah, I did this thing down with your friends, with Scotty and Ed, and this intrathecal, and they shoot stem cells into your spine, and it's the only thing that passes the blood-brain barrier. And I feel like I'm 25. I walked again right away. Like, it's insane, the curative properties that are out there. Again, you wouldn't try it unless you're at the very end. I wouldn't even suggest stuff to people unless they're like, this is the end of the road for me. I don't know where to go. But if you are that person, please reach out.
Yeah. Because I haven't looked into, I've been aware of stem cells for the treatment of my hips. Right. Because I have labral tears in both my hips. Yep. I can't run anymore. I have pain a lot, and that pain is tightening my psoas, tightening my lower back. Right, it's just all the protective muscles and so I've thought about it, but it freaks me out a little bit. Like I've done PRP, which tremendously helps my hips.
I would say this. I would say that PRP, I've done that too. And what they had before PRP, there was another one that they did where they shot like a glucose solution.
Yes, the ozone with the I went to Arizona.
Prolotherapy.
I went to Arizona to get it done because you couldn't get it in California.
So kids, back in the day, it went prolotherapy to PRP, which is platelet-rich plasma. Yeah. They take out your blood and they spin it and they put it back in.
It looks like pee.
And they say we're going to have, it's like little baby stem cells are in there. It's the origins of cell growth. And so The Prolo, the first thing that what that does, it's an irritant. So I've had it shot in my knees 1,000 times. Back when I was fighting, this goes 15, 20 years, is like, I mean, so I'm trying to save a career, trying to not get surgery. What that does is it irritates it. It's almost like chemo.
Yeah.
It's in this area, then all my body's healing faculties are going to go there because it thinks it's been injured because I just injured it.
Yep.
And in a way that doesn't injure it, but it calls my body. And so it's like that, or like in cancer patients that are doing stuff will do like Coley's enzyme or something like that, which is like, it causes an immune system response. And then it went to PRP, which I've done a bunch too, and then stem cells. And stem cells, I've seen the best progress. I think why that is because I think it really works. And secondarily, I think that it knocks out inflammation instantly. And so with inflammation gone in my body, which, you know, you're inflamed everywhere, especially depending on your diet and everything else.
Yeah.
I get some instant relief from. It is sore for days afterwards if you do stem cells in a joint or something like that. But it's like,
but PRP is sore in a joint too. If you hurt when you walk,
right? My hips hurt all the time because I'm bone on bone. So I live at an 8 or whatever of discomfort. So, is it going to be uncomfortable? It's
am I going to be a 10
I'm at the age where they did a colonoscopy on me.
Yeah, and that's the best sleep. I love them. If I could get one every year, I would.
Well, they told me, they go, you're going to need to be on, I go, what do I need to do for this? They go, you're going to take, we're going to get a port and you're going to do fentanyl and Versed. I go, what am I going to do that I need to be on heroin? What are you going to do to my butthole that is so like, I go,
you don't want to know.
And I go, I'm going to be on a natch. And they go, huh? And I go, I don't want anything. I go, they go, it's uncomfortable. I go, I think your level of discomfort and my level of discomfort are probably, we're having different conversations.
My mom does her colonoscopies like
and awake. And it was fine.
Because she doesn't want to, she wants to go right back to work.
It's no big deal.
Really?
And I was like,
my mom said
so the medical society in our country wants to give people, for a thing that feels like and nothing, you want to give them fentanyl. You want to make them feel like what it is to make out with God. And you wonder why we have a drug problem when we're getting, you're going to let my mom feel that? Like, and get her strong. How dare you?
Yeah.
Anyways.
No, it's a nice sleep. You know, I have polyps. So every time I go under for a colonoscopy every 3 years, they have to remove polyps. I know that.
Damn.
So that's why I've, you know, get them. And that's why it's
a regular deal.
Put me under. They just.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing. I mean, also like, anyways, we could go into all the scoping.
Yes. But yes, so you notice the difference when they go into your spine. That's why we started talking about.
Well, that's what I want to do is this, you know, since my friend had done it, I'm interested in doing that. Is it scary? Oh yeah. I mean, it's like you're messing with your spine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like people have done this and they've had huge success. And maybe me too. There's hope there anyway.
Yeah.
And also there's hope cognitively. It's like, you know, if it's the only thing that passes the blood-brain barrier, like I started messing with like lion's mane mushroom was another one of the only mushrooms that would pass the blood-brain barrier. And so I'd do that a lot and I'd feel a difference.
Did you just take it in a capsule or were you
in a capsule and then I would cook it also in butter and
lion's mane's great. I take it every day.
It's tremendous. Yeah. It's tremendous.
Yeah.
And so there's all these assets that are out there that I've had to learn about. It's like pirate your own life back. And I mean, that's where my podcast had come from, was this idea about like, corporations are trying to steal your attention and your very self. You need to take it back from them. You need to take your food back. You need to take ownership of yourself. You need to have a heightened responsibility for your whole life, or else you are going to be lost. You're listening to the government for health advice? Stop it. Look at these people. These people that like none of it makes sense if you're just even a child looking and you're like, wow, the health minister's 400 pounds. That seems odd. You know, the Food and Drug Administration. Why are they together? Our food, our nourishment, and drugs? Why? Because the one feeds the other. We're going to feed you in a way that you're going to need drugs later. Man, you better find out what macronutrients mean. You better find out about how to nourish yourself.
Well, I think that's what scares me, is that the majority of populations don't understand that kind of stuff. They don't understand on a cellular level, or like what food actually does to your body.
We have gym classes in public school.
Yep. Well, Do we still? I mean, that's the other thing,
or whatever.
right?
But I never learned any of that.
No.
What I learned when I was a kid was eat 12 servings of grains a day.
Yeah.
And eat a small amount of fish and meat a day.
Yeah.
Well, that's insane. That's a recipe for diabetes. And then what happened in the 90s? Diabetes.
Yeah.
You know, if you went to GNC in the 90s, like, it shows how old I am, but like
I was in the GNCs in the 90s too. So
it's all carb loaders.
It's all carb
loaders.
loaders.
There was no proteins anywhere.
No.
The way proteins are now in a store, it was all carb loaders. So here's 1,000 grams of maltodextrin or something.
And women were wondering why they were
insane.
gaining weight and then also having heart palpitations because they were taking creatines.
Yeah,
like,
and dexedrine.
And dexedrine and all these things.
All these.
So when you were at your lowest and you were like feeling these things, your mom, you come back to your mom a lot.
Yeah.
Was she still that beacon of like, I can't do this because of her? Or was your pain and your sort of your injury so much it was gone?
Yeah. It's like because part of it for me being injured like that was now I'm a burden. I have no utility.
Right.
And the kindness would be if I erased myself because I'm a burden to those that have taken care of. And I've already proven that. You know, I'd already had, you know, I could start to mark my relationships that were fractured and that were flailing apart to become disassembled for forever because of the hurts that I was causing just by my behaviors all up before I got hurt even. Like I could see all that happening. I go, oh, it's not going to get better. I had neurogenic tremors where I would just shake and I had stutter. And I was like, you're like a guy that you see on the street.
Yeah.
You're in a box.
Right.
And so, yeah, you got some money left over, but how long does that last? You're about to be done.
I think that's the common thing that I've noticed. You know, one of my closest friends took his own life. And I think that I always say that like most human beings can handle one or two things in their life that has gone wrong. We're used to handling a few things in our life. If everything in your life goes wrong, you're abusing substances and you have that feeling, that one feeling where you can't in your despair find one thing that you bring to this world, there's no other option.
Yeah. There's nobody that's more miserable than somebody without a purpose.
Absolutely.
Right? And if you lose your purpose, if you're unsure about that, it's a real darkness.
Yeah.
You know, one of my mentors, she'd said to me, she says, you know, Tait, a victim never recovers. And she was deep in the alcoholic and drug addiction fields. And she's like, a victim can never recover. If you can't take responsibility for your life, for your feelings, for your thoughts, for your emotions, you're not responsible for the first thought, but how much you massage that thought into the next thoughts, you do have a responsibility in that. And so this whole thing, if you're trying to recreate your life and you have to change your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions, it's like, well, how do I even go about doing that? It's a tall order, but it's what's necessary. You need a whole shift of yourself. And in that, you have to take ownership of everything you do. I could no longer at a certain point go, oh, well, the doctor prescribed it, so it's like, it's on him. No, it's on me. Yeah. It's always on me. You know, it's like the responsibility is always, the buck has to stop here. Because otherwise, what? If my life is dependent on somebody else making good decisions for me, I either live or die by their decision. That's not wellness. That's not
I think
autonomy.
A lot of people in the victim mindset, they want to believe that everybody else has it easier.
Of course.
And a lot of people do, right?
Sure.
But I think that what's lost on a lot of people is making those choices, making those decisions, being conscious enough to say, I'm going to do water therapy. I'm going to do the hyperbaric. I'm going to seek treatment for this because I'm feeling this despair. Yeah. That's not easy. No. That is hard.
And it's a hard thing emotionally to come to.
Yes.
So, because the emotionally you have to come to, nobody's coming to save me.
No.
For real, nobody's coming to save me. And so if that's the truth, if it's on me, I mean, you know, my mom died. My wife left me. My business failed. I accidentally embezzled a bunch of money. Whatever it is where your cart is in the ditch, it's like, and what? And so now here we are. If none of that existed, who would you be now? You better start being that person. And you have to unwind all the past and you have to start walking a different road. Because if it's on me, it's on me. It's like, that's what I loved about like athletic endeavors, right? And you look at that, it's like, there's nobody else's responsibility to make you faster or to make you more efficient in your movements. It's on you. It's how many repetitions you do. They're completely aligned with one. That's a congruent idea.
Yep. Hard work and talent have to go together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that old line. What is it? That
hard work beats talent when talent doesn't show up.
Exactly.
When talent stops trying. Yep. It's 100% true.
Yep.
You can be the most talented athlete in the world, but if the guy next to you see it all the time.
I would see him in the gym.
Yep.
The guys that would walk in that had real talent, you're like, ooh, wow. They take it for granted.
Yeah.
And so they never become anything. They very rarely, you very rarely see those people on podiums because they're almost trained to have a poor mindset where they don't try hard because it just comes easy. And if it doesn't come easy, well then, they get sour.
So you're talking about your gym. Do you still own your gym?
No, my buddy Lorenzo took it over.
Okay,
but it still runs. It still goes.
If you felt
and then
that
one of my black belts runs the
you.
jiu-jitsu. It totally.
Yeah.
I mean, it became a thing where I built this thing up, and I was so stoked about it. And then I was like, well, I'm moving, I'm doing these other things that I'm also interested in, and I have to. So how do I do that in a healthy way?
Yeah.
And how do I remove myself? So I slowly built a team of coaches and I turned that over to them to where it would run without me so I could go and follow film work. And then at a certain point, one of them became interested and goes, hey man, I've got a family and I'd like to have ownership of this and all. And I go, bet man, because I never took money from it anyways. It was just always a thing that I like, you do the work, you get paid, And so, and it makes me really happy that, so there's guys that I love that are running it, both with their families and Ruben's got 2 beautiful daughters and a wife and she's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, just got a black belt too, awesome. Jen Rivera. And it's that community. And that's the thing, it's one of the things that makes me proudest in life or happiest in life is that I've gotten to be a part of these people's path in a way for decades that we've known each other and that is still nourishing other people. And it's like, there's something super special in that, Well,
you created a community, and community is one of the most important things in people's lives, you know? It's where we first met.
It's so crazy to me.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. To think that this is, I was like 10 somebody says, oh, what are you doing? I go, I'm going to go do this podcast with a friend of mine. Oh, who's your friend? Well, it's a workmate, a castmate of mine on Mando. And I was like, how weird is that? Because we go way back to that, to where it's like you come in for training and we work out stunt moves and all, wild.
It's so wild. So for the people at home.
Yeah.
So during Longmire in season 1, I think it was, because it was 2013 when we met.
Yep.
So maybe it was like season 2. Gina Rodriguez came in as a guest star.
That's right.
And we had
And she was just happy to have the job. She wasn't.
No.
She didn't have any clout.
No.
She wasn't going.
It was right after her movie that she had done with Edward Olmos.
Yep.
It was called, oh gosh, what was it called? I forget what it was called, but it was wonderful movie that Eddie knew her from. But she came in and our characters had to like spar. Like my character as a detective or a police officer gets in the ring with her to sort of be like,
cool.
I need you to answer some questions and basically goes and takes some hits.
Yep.
It was so hard for me because I had such an ego and I was such a brat at this point in my career.
This is so interesting to hear your reflection of yourself. Go ahead.
Because I had cultivated what I thought was this image of being tough.
Right.
And they wanted me to get in the ring, whether it's as a character or not.
Right.
And get my ass kicked.
Right.
And I was like, this is not, I had just finished filming Riddick, where I beat up guys 10 times bigger than me.
Yep.
And you want me to get in the ring and get my ass kicked by a girl?
Right.
No offense.
Of course.
I'm a girl too. But my ego couldn't handle it. And I felt, there have been times where I'm like, I need to call Gina and apologize for my behavior.
God damn.
I felt like I was such a brat.
What I got to say about that, from my perspective, is that, isn't it interesting how we feel about ourselves And this is professionalism. And this is also a spiritual enlightenment that I would say. We feel like this about ourselves, but that's not who you showed up as, right? That wasn't something that anybody noticed. Maybe Gina would disagree with me, but I didn't see any of that. And I think that's the interesting part is that, we're not judged on our thoughts, we're judged on our actions, but we judge ourselves pretty goddamn harshly. You know what I mean? Isn't that wild?
Isn't that
and little
crazy?
Peanut was there too, Michelle Watterson.
Yes.
The karate hottie was on that with us. And Julie Kedzie. It was great. It was great.
Oh, Julie, yes.
Yeah.
That was
Kedzie.
so much fun. We had such a great time. It was fun. I loved meeting you. And so when I came to Mando and you were there, I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's wild.
Because I hadn't seen you since then.
Yeah.
So
what a trip.
What a trip.
You must have been like, what the fuck is he doing here?
I was like, that is a crazy 10-year arch for you to go from
gym owner in Santa Fe, Mexico, bodyguard for that's how I was paying the bills, right? I would go do bodyguard work.
You were bodyguarding.
So I could do
you were
keep
no
the
longer
gym.
fighting MMA.
Nope.
So you were doing the gym. You also were starting to get into coffee, right?
Yep. Yeah, we started Caveman Coffee at that time.
Okay.
Still going.
Which is amazing. I love Caveman, by the way.
Thank you.
And then you segue stunts.
Yep.
And then actor.
Yep.
It's like
it's bananas.
It is a very purposeful, very clear to me that you had a vision for what you wanted to do.
I tried to show up every day and try to be useful. And I tried not to get too far about where I wanted to go. I just wanted to do a good job and get the next job. It wasn't until I was at a Comic-Con last year and there's a kid that came up and goes, God, what a crazy body of work you have. This is quite a career. And it was the first time I ever thought that I had a career. And I go, that's so funny that you say that because I was just trying to get the next job.
Oh, I love that.
And I was like, God, what a reflection. And I was like, yeah, man, this is something else. And and so in this film business world where there's this, vertical hierarchy of the craziest caste system you've ever seen, in the free world anyway. I mean, it's bananas, from the way it all is. And I would just sit, and I remember I was on Project Power and I was like, the only person that has real agency here is the showrunner, is the creator of this, right? And in creation, you have ownership. And I thought, I like that because, in the stunt world, then I'm playing the characters that come up. It's like, yeah, who's the baddest looking dude that, Keanu can kill or Halle Berry can kill or whatever the thing is.
Yeah, people love to kill you in
they love it.
projects.
Denzel, so make our hero look dope. And I was
Because
like,
you look dope. And they're like, if our hero can kill this guy.
Right, thank you. Well, and so how do you then change that? Well, you got to let people know who you are. That's your responsibility too, Tait. There's no victims here. Oh, you looked great, man. That's how you got in the door. But now what? And so when I got hurt, Keith, I don't know, something flipped in Jardine. And he started, and for the people that are listening, Keith Jardine is a very highly decorated, applauded, one of the most fantastic MMA fighters in the history of the UFC, and a training partner of mine for a long time. And then we went in the coffee business together, and then we, And my other coffee partner, Lacey Mackey, was a trainer to Bryce Howard. And so I knew Bryce going into the show. These crazy connections. And then she starts training, what's his name that plays Darth Vader, for Obi-Wan. Yeah.
Yes.
And so she'd be, anyways, all of that. It's this crazy synergy of all of us all working. It's so wild to me.
Yeah.
So anyway, Keith starts writing.
Yeah.
And he writes like a maniac, like the way he would train. And so he would go to the coffee shop and he'd sit down, and he's not very personable. I mean, it's not that he's not personable, but he doesn't look approachable at all.
Yeah.
He looks like a Cro-Mag sitting there at his computer. So nobody talks to him.
He's very protected.
I remember I would see him when we were still fighting. He'd be after training. And he'd be at a coffee shop reading, and you'd see him. And when you're out and somebody, like, oh, this person wants to talk to me, or they want to, they want to get a picture, and you're trying to not look, but you're totally clocking them. And I would mess with them all the time but anyway,
he just wants to
it happens less and less after the lights are off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's just what it is. And so he's there writing, and he writes 7 or 8 hours a day. And,
Wow.
and
Full-time job.
he goes, I want to get into this to where I do my rewrites to where I almost know them verbatim. I really know where I want to go in each scene that I'm doing. And he's talking like that. And I'm like, and I'm on the couch crying and like, yeah, no, man. Yeah. Just getting through another day. You know, it's like, we're having very different experiences.
Different life experiences here.
And he's like, it's going to be okay, man. We're going to be all right. And he just go on to write. And so like, anyway, 2 years ago, we filmed a short that he wrote, and we produce it and put it all together, and we get, 30 grand or whatever it is to do it. And then he's got proof of concept because he wins all kinds of awards for that at all the different film festivals he takes it to. And then we just got done filming a feature that he wrote. That's this psychological slasher thriller type of show that we put together down in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
And to see the full run of all of that, and to have some like as a producer, now he's a director, and then we're both acting in it, and then also Cowboy Cerrone's in it, and then Michelle Waterson's there, and she's got a part in it, and we've got all our friends here together, and I'm like, this is the life that one of the other producers came up to me and he goes, hey man, thanks a lot for being here. As if like, I go, where in the fuck else do you think I would be? This is my best friend. There's nowhere else I'd rather be than making, I was like, of course I'm here. And he's like, well, except being on some $100 million film somewhere making a boatload of money. I go, no man, I said, I swear to fucking Christ, this is where I want to be. There's nowhere else in the world for me but right here with these people doing this thing right now.
Success is not enjoyable unless you pull.
It's a different thing.
Unless everybody comes with you.
Yep. And it's not like other sets. It's not like the Mando experience and the family that's there. Beautiful. I love that. Like all of Lucasfilms is just like, what a...
Amazing. I talk about it all the time. I say... And I that Lucasfilm has been so wonderful to me and so supportive of me as an actor and this character that it's just like they're wonderful.
Yeah.
They're wonderful.
Yeah.
I get very protective of them.
Yeah.
When like I see nasty things, I'm like, hold my earrings.
Yeah, man. It's like there's not people that care about the product after the product is done in a lot of places in Hollywood. And, like the John Wick franchise, those guys guard that. They love that because Chad and Jeremy Marinas and those guys that put that together, David Leitch, they're honorable men that are martial artists. As their history, but like this is their thing. Lucasfilms is like that.
Yeah.
With all those people, with John, Filoni, everybody from wardrobe to crafty to everybody cares about that thing in such this beautiful way. That being said, being an honor to be a part of that. There's nothing like this thing with Broken Ear Productions and Keith running the whole thing as the director,
and your friends.
And going through it and problem solving together and being on that and all our aspirations and all of our hopes. And it's the biggest, and then, got projects that you can take to Lucasfilm. Like there's this thing where it's like, so anyway, what my thing is with kids, like, because this kid says to me, what a career you've made. All I can say to anybody is do that. It's not outside of you. If it's inside of you, write it and create it. And if you can be into creation, it's all available to you.
I think that you said something that is so important. And I want people to hear it again and again and again, because you said that you don't get too far ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes people get caught up in what they're trying to accomplish, what they want it to look like in hindsight. You can't control what things are going to look like. If you want to accomplish things, accomplish the thing in front of you, then accomplish the next thing. And just small, bite-sized things. My dad always said to break things down and put them in controlled things that you can accomplish.
How do you finish a Thanksgiving dinner? One bite at a time. I love, there's a story about the businessman that goes down to Mexico, and there's a huge storm that happens, and he gets up early the next morning, and he's walking down the beach just as before daybreak, like it's dark still, and he sees a figure down the beach, and he's flailing like somebody doing a crazy dance or something, and there's debris everywhere on the beach. There's been a whole tumultuous storm, and the closer he gets, he sees this kid, and he's picking down, and he's whipping stuff. And he sees, oh, he must be picking up these starfish. There's starfish littered all over the beach. And he goes, what are you doing? And he says, I'm saving these starfish. And he throws another one. And he goes, there's hundreds of thousands. You can't possibly make a difference. And he looks at him confused, and he picks up another one, and he throws it in the ocean. He says, it made a difference to that one. And it's like that kind of thing, you want to save all the puppies at the pound and all that. Well, maybe you can't, but you can make a difference to the one in front of you. And you can treat people that way. Everybody in this, I'm on kind of the front lines in a lot of, people that are at the late end stages of alcoholism and drug addiction and stuff like that. And it's like, maybe you can't make a dent in the whole thing, but you can make a difference to this person and their family right now in front of you in real time. And it matters, those things matter, and they might not matter. And maybe they die, even people that, that I endeavor to help, a lot of my best friends have died. And I haven't been able to impart any kind of growth or help in them at all. But it doesn't mean that the guy that was in front of me that I didn't help. And it doesn't mean that he has to have a result for that to happen. The action of me being there right now in the moment, it matters. And that's what matters, is making the difference right there. I don't need a result to happen. There's not a contract that's like, I need to get this to the end of that. It's like the universal law of reciprocation says, not that I get and then I give back. Oh, I win it means that I just give. I just give, and I get to have the fruits of life just by having a life of service to give to people. Yeah. And that was a tremendous lesson. Like, it's almost like a life hack. All these biohackers in the world, nobody talks about that. But just to give is that becomes the whole life then. Then how did your life happen, Tait? How did you get this? How did you get to that? Well, I just did the next thing in front of me, man. And I tried to pay attention to that and serve it well, Well,
you showed up and you were present, and that's the most important thing.
And I try to push fear away.
Well,
right?
Shit.
And then how do I push fear away? I remember I was on Avengers, and it was a stunt job, and I was like, God damn, I'm on Avengers. And Jon Favreau was directing, and all my heroes, Heidi Moneymaker is there, and Tunaway Reed, and there's all these, and I'm like, oh my God, like, this is incredible. And they're all talking. I was like, man, I wish I knew anybody to go and talk, but and I was like, you're getting all in yourself and your ego and all, just go be helpful. And I was like, hey, does anybody need any water? Anybody need, where can you be useful, Tait? And then I was like, yeah, listen, man, that's all this is.
Yeah, but go get them that water.
Yeah.
Because you want to get them water.
Yeah.
Not for
I want to be useful.
Yes.
I want to be useful.
Yeah.
So, and it's just like my mom told me, the first time I ever had a job, I was at this boatyard. I lived on Shore Lake Huron, and I was 12 years old, and she says, hey, when you go there, I remember I had mixed match Converse on. I had a yellow one and a purple one, right?
That was also cool when we were kids.
Because my mom was dope. And
you'd trade with one of your friends.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And so I go down, and she says, when they tell you they're going to give you a task in the morning to do, and when you're done with that, they're probably going to be busy. This is what running a business is. Always have a rag with you. Always be looking to wipe down a counter. Look to grab a broom. Look to clean up. Look to be useful. Look for the next thing that needs to get done and do that thing. And it's the best goddamn advice anybody ever gave me was my mom,
It's 100% true, though.
It never wears out.
No, because it's in every situation of your life, you can be of service.
Yeah.
I feel like we just went to church. I feel like everybody at home that's listening to this in their car, at home, just went to church.
You know what I love about it? Is the unexpectedness of it. Is like, because for me it is too, right? It's like, I don't know where it's going to go. And so people are like, oh yeah, look on this. And maybe they look into me or you or what. And they're like, oh, I can expect. It's like, you don't know what to expect. And that's the beautiful part about it. I really get a kick out of it.
I love about sitting down and having conversations with people with zero expectation.
Yeah. It's real special. I'm glad it all worked out too.
I'm glad this worked out. I'm glad that the skies parted long enough for me to get out of Portland,
Oregon. It's crazy when when all that's happening, right? Like I just got a new truck, and so my friend he does all my wraps and stuff out here, and so I was like, oh cool, I'll just get it wrapped when I go out there, and I'll meet Katee on Wednesday, and all that'll go on, and then when you like all the hangups, and then my friend Mary was like, oh yeah, you know, I'd love to get time with you too, and so cool, and then you know, I was talking to a friend back home, and she says, well, it's not going to happen. I go, no, I don't think so. I said, but I don't know. We'll see. You know, there's reasons for everything though. And it's like, to be able to take life in stride like that, I'm like, it's nice to not be hemmed up in the way that other people are like, oh, what a disappointment. Is it a disappointment? You know, it's like the guy there's an old like Chinese parable about an old farmer, and he's got this horse, and it's all he's got. This is his estate, this horse and his son. And his horse runs away. And everybody in the village is like, oh my God, that's so terrible. Your horse is gone, and this everything you've owned is gone. And he goes, well, maybe. And then the next day, his horse comes back with a bunch of other wild horses. And then he and his son go to taming the horses. And now they're rich people, and they can barter these horses. And they go, oh, that's so wonderful. You got all these horses. He goes, maybe, you know. And then while he's breaking one of the horses, his kid falls off and breaks his leg, and they don't know if he's going to walk again. And they're like, oh my God, everybody comes over with food. It's so horrible. This is the worst thing. And well, maybe. And then the next day, the Chinese army comes through, and they're going to take every able-bodied young man to war, which is certain death. And he can't go because he can't walk. He's useless to them. You know, I mean, and it's just that thing about like, I don't know what's in store, man. I know that God gave me these legs to build with all these adversities so that I have strength to carry on tomorrow, and that I can be helpful to the guy coming behind me. And since I've adopted that kind of a policy in my head, God damn, you can wear life easier, you know?
It's true.
Yeah.
On that note, stay open, keep your eyes open for miracles.
Yeah.
And just be present.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Guys, that was Tait
Thank
Fletcher.
Right on.
I love you.
Love you too.
Yeah, that was cool.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hindsight with Tait Fletcher. I am excited to be here. I'm delirious. I was just telling my lovely co-hosts that don't want to be co-hosts, Jeff and Casper. Casper is literally like, I don't even have a video. I don't want to be on video. I don't want to give people that.
I'll edit myself out, but here I am for you, Katee. But I'm not going to be on video now.
I appreciate it. You guys, my morning has been fucking stupid.
Yeah, you're in a good mood, it seems like, though.
You know, the only thing saving me right now, I just want to give a plug to a brand that I'm not I'm not sponsored by. My friends over at Bayo, from my friends over at the Mother Days podcast. I'm actually going to be a guest on that podcast on Thursday. So you guys check that out, Mother Days. If you guys don't know the Mother Days podcast, my friend Sarah Wright Olson and Teresa Palmer host that show. They get into all amazing things, motherhood and life, and it's beautiful. And we have a really wonderful conversation. But Sarah's sending me over Bayo. So Bayo is a really phenomenal face product. They have stuff for kids as well. So she sent like a gift pack for our oldest and our new baby, Granger, as well. But there is a stick in there like for mommies that is pink, and you can use it on your cheeks, on your lips, on your eyelids. And the moment I got it, I started using it. It saves me. It's the only thing I have on my face right now. And it's the only reason I don't look like a freaking zombie.
That's great.
It's true. It's phenomenal. Because it's really quick and it makes me happy. But so a little bit of what's going on in my life right now, and then we'll get into Tait. So that cold that I had,
yes,
everyone has it.
Right.
Everyone has it. The baby has it. He's not sleeping through the night because we're constantly having to suck his nose. He sounds like he's like drowning. It's awful. So no sleep. Our daughter starts chemo today. So we're also doing that. And then my dog decided to throw up on the floor this morning, like right before we started filming. So I had to clean that up really quick deal with him. I still have my pajamas on, and forgot this was a video episode. So,
well, you came in pretty hot and in a good mood. So you seem like you're doing okay.
You know, if there is anything that the film industry trained me for, it's lack of sleep and how to pretend that I have slept.
Mm-hmm.
So it sort of prepared me. I don't think it prepared me for motherhood, but it prepared me for pretending like I've slept.
Looking awake when you need to be.
Yeah. You know, and life's too short. You know, I say to myself, like you never get more than you can handle. And you have two choices in life. You can rise to the occasion, or you can crawl into a ball and let it get the best of you. So, you know, there's no reason.
Have you been more tired on a film set or being a mother?
I think being a mother. But it's hard because it's like, I feel like I have been exhausted on film sets, like just exhausted. Like the run of doing like 22 episodes on Battlestar is exhausting. You know, the 6-month shoot for Mandalorian was exhausting. Longmire was super easy because Robert Taylor had all the work, and I just sort of showed up and was like, "Hey guys."
Yeah.
Being a mother though is constant exhaustion. Even if you have like a good night's sleep and it helps you that day, you're exhausted the next day.
Right.
So it is constant. And I don't think I've had like a normal motherhood. Not to say I cannot talk about anybody else's like mothering experience, but I can talk about my own. And mine, there are days where I say to my husband, I want to know what it would be like to be the mother of a healthy child.
Right.
You know, like I would love to know what it's like to just like be in a moment, appreciate the moment, and not have in the back of my head, oh, remember your kid has cancer. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know what it's like to just like be in a moment. I mean, I know what it's like to be in a moment. I always try to live in the moment with my daughter. But I've never had this like, I've never been able to mother a healthy child. You know, it's just weird. So I don't know. I don't know if it's that, you know, I have more exhaustion than normal mothers, but at the same time, like, you know, we've got tons of help. We have a freaking village. We have a village of people that show up for helping us, and we have a village of people we pay to help us. So I don't know. I think that every mother's exhausted, including the mothers of like 16-year-olds. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't get better.
Yeah. But there's a different type of exhaustion when you're dealing with health issues than what you have on a film set, where no matter what, you get to go home at whenever the day ends. You get union mandated time off. You get, you know, there's no union in motherhood. So
no, you know, and it's funny. It's nothing has prepared me for the life in front of me, like shutting off my needs and being like a champion and an advocate for my daughter. And my husband would say the same thing. You know, when she's in the hospital, like for, you know, her chemo treatments, I turn into like a dancing monkey, if you will, because it's, you know, her last rounds were like 12 hours. Like, you know, try entertaining a 1-year-old who's just learned how to walk for 12 hours, hooked up to an IV bag, getting her chemo, and trying to get her to like, you know, not be a crazy child. It's, you know, thank God that I have voices in my trick bag and, you know, like musical theater.
Yeah. You're putting on a whole production.
You do. But anyway, that's my day. So the things are just it is a shit soup over here, guys.
Well, speaking of shit soup, seems like Tait had quite an experience over the last handful of years.
Wow, the segue, Jeff. Look at this guy.
That's what I'm here for.
To keep me on, just keep her. God damn it, just keep her on task.
Yeah. So did this brain injury? One thing I was curious, did that happen before or after you met him?
So it happened after I met him in Longmire.
Right.
And I believe it was Free Guy. We should look this up, guys.
It was Free Guy. That's
yeah,
right.
Free Guy.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out when Free Guy came out. I think
that was like right around pandemic time.
Yeah. So it would have happened sort of maybe before Mando. This is one of those weird things where I was so interested in what he was saying that I wasn't thinking about the timeline in my head.
Right.
At the time. We also recorded his episode like at 9 p.m. at night, and we were both like, but that brain injury was, for anyone who has known anyone who has had traumatic brain injury, I've 2 people now that I've known, and it is debilitating, just debilitating.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is I'm curious if you noticed a difference knowing him on Longmire and then meeting him again on Mandalorian.
No, I didn't. And here's that thing about entertainers, I think, a lot of times. You get so good at putting your best foot forward at work.
Right.
Because we're as actors aware that you shouldn't have a bad day at work because it could affect you getting hired again, right? And that's not necessarily what Tait was doing, but Tait is a very thoughtful human being. And I think that comes through. He's incredibly thoughtful. And he would never come to work, and I can say this with much confidence, he would never come to work, even on his worst days, and let it affect other people. He would have pretended. He would have held it together. He would have done everything he could have if it was affecting him, because he would not have wanted to ruin anyone else's day or hurt production. So it wouldn't have surprised me if he was experiencing some of that and I didn't see it, Yeah. One of the things that always impresses me so much, and one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to Tait, is that he is one of those people that you sit down with and his life has been so full. And he has truly learned or used life as like a learning tool. And he is able to talk about life in like it sort of like a third person looking back. It's just like every time I'm with him, I feel like I've just gone to church. And I say that in the episode because he's such a beautiful human being. Yeah. And it never ceases to amaze me how wonderful he is. But his openness about his struggle with the TBI, the traumatic brain injury, and what it did to his mental health, and how he's become a champion for mental health now and for people in sports that are suffering from these repeated cluster head injuries that will eventually possibly lead to something more grave later, which is the whole thing in football. That's the thing that they're starting to that they've realized. It's that repeated hitting. That's what's really bad, Yeah,
you guys get into some pretty heavy topics in the episode, and
yeah.
I mean, they're important topics for sure, but they definitely are. I feel like maybe I'm just learning more about it, but I feel like it's being discussed more and more in these fields like football and sports and MMA and all these spaces. You're seeing a lot of these people have negative consequences from just getting kicked in the head over and over again.
What was really interesting to me as well is, as a one of my close friends who was like a brother to myself and my brother, took his own life by suicide about 5 years ago now. Yeah. Nope, it was more than that. It was more than that. 6, 7. God, time flies. And I think the thing that happens when you are a loved one who is left behind by somebody who takes their own life is that you start to question everything you could have done, all the signs that you missed, all of that stuff. And so I really wanted to ask Tait in that moment, because he has such a close relationship with his mother, that it was so interesting to me that his mother couldn't have saved him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That sort of like, I don't know, that was really eye-opening to me, because it was like, even if we had known what Keenan was going through, like at its core, I don't know if we would have been able to help him. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting for me as a person who has, kicked themselves for so many years.
Yeah.
Yeah. That like,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting. I mean, in Tate's case, at least, how so much of it was just physically related to his condition. And then, literally getting magnets shot at his brain did a lot of help with that. It's that whole field is very interesting because, we still know so little about how the brain works that it's funny that you can just blast it with magnets and it solves so many problems.
like I legitimately like kind of thought he was kidding.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm sorry. You put magnets in your.
Well, have you heard of I can't remember what it's called, but it's like the God ray or something like that.
No.
It's this experiment, and I'm just remembering this off the top of my head, so sorry if I mess a lot of it up, but it's something where they use like some kind of helmet or some kind of wand that's got magnets in it, and it activates this part of your brain that unlocks some like divine experience in you. People that have had it have felt like they've like communed with the Lord. It's like some way that is very similar to people who go into like deep meditative trances can get there, but like there's just this like wand that gives people this experience.
It's like the reversed Professor Xavier.
Yeah, it's like the reverse of what do they call that?
Well, you're
Cerebro?
you're shaking your head, Casper, today.
No. I'm just having the same experience that I think you were having during your conversation with Tait, where it's like you're saying these things, Jeff, and it feels like you're trying to recruit us to a cult. It just sounds so crazy.
Well, I'm not recruiting anybody.
Did you feel like you were like trying to get like recruited into a cult when you listened to Tait?
No. A couple of years back, I knew a lot less about traumatic brain injury. I just kind of figured that would lead to cognitive disabilities, but I didn't really think of the ramifications in terms of like emotional, how it affects your emotions and feelings, which I find extremely scary, that you can get depressed or suicidal or get anxiety from a knock to the head.
I think so too. And I think that it sort of makes the ex-football players, I think there might actually, I don't know if there's any current football players that have taken their own lives by suicide, but the ex-football players who have taken their lives, it makes it make more sense because like you said, like it's, there's so much that goes into the identity of these men, these big, strong men that are capable of so much that the head injury, we're thinking about it like in such a normal person's head trauma. Like I've had multiple concussions. They're just concussions. That repeated trauma, the effect that it has on your ability to cope with your emotions and the disconnect that your body starts to feel from these men, these Adonis men that were doing these crazy things with their bodies physically to retiring from football, which is an entirely different emotional thing that we didn't really even get into, and having that sort of emotional disconnect and that sort of like, trying to figure out where you belong and what your future is, because these men are retiring at, 35, you're starting all over again. Your life isn't even half done. And then you're also dealing with the emotional effects of this traumatic brain injury, and you can't figure out why. It's just making things worse and it's making them spin. And so when I was talking to him, I started all of those football players that we have heard of who have had the, death by suicide, started coming back and flooding my mind. And I'm like, oh my God, it's all making even more sense now, So much so that Robin and I, when Granger was born, we always said if we ever had a son, we would never let him play football, which is so weird because I dated a football player for years. And my I call him my nephew, but my cousin played for 10 years in the NFL as well. And they're both seemingly fine. You know what I mean? And So I don't know. It's such a weird thing.
I'm going to say real quick, the God helmet is what it's called. And apparently it may be pseudoscience. So let's not spread that around.
So I love
We're
the
not
fact
doctors.
that no, you guys, we're not. And I trust science.
Yes.
So there we go. Let's get into the questions and the comments you guys had about last episode. Yeah. Shall we do that? Zach 5 says, we won't know until they're 11 was the best part of the whole episode, the last episode. You guys, if you missed that episode.
We won't know until they're 11 comes from
Robin. So you don't get to choose your house in Harry Potter until you're 11 years old. And that is, you're old enough to choose what house you're going to be in.
We were asking you about that. And that was Robin's comment from the other room.
It was. He's quick, man. He's quick. My children are both named after Harry Potter. Not by my choice, by my husband's. So the story is, and I think I said this, that I was looking for a very strange name for our daughter because I grew up as Katee, which to me was like the worst thing. And so when my husband brought up Ginevra, I was like, oh my God, that's absolutely stunning. And I couldn't believe that he thought it was a normal name. He thought it was a normal name because of Harry Potter, because it had been so like shoved down his throat in Harry Potter. And that's his favorite, one of his favorite book series as a child. And so, which was, 5 years ago.
A child?
Yeah, you guys, he's 10 years younger than me. And he was like, my husband is highly intelligent. So he was like a really big reader. And he used to like read under the covers and, go to school having not slept. He was one of those kids. But anyway, and then it just turned out that I had an Aunt Ginny. So it sort of became a family name. So Ginevra. And then when we were trying to think of, because we decided we wanted to be those fucking weirdos that name their kids all with the same alphabet letter. So my husband's last name is Granger. So we were looking, or Gadsby. So we were looking for a G name for our son. And there aren't any. You guys, it's like Jeff with a G. Like, no offense,
right, which
Jeff.
we love all Jeffs, but we know which one is the worst one.
So we were really struggling. And I said, what about Granger? And he sort of looked at me like I'd taken way too much like ADHD medication that day.
That was just him falling more in love with you.
Was it? Because he looked at me and he goes, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, I think it's like a really cool name. And he was like, Granger? Like Hermione Granger? And I was like, oh, fuck me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It happened. We almost named him Gamble.
Gamble. Interesting.
Super cool name. But I had read a study that children actually lean into their names.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Right? So if you have a last name of like Winter, there's a really good chance you're going to go into weather, or be a meteorologist or something like that. If you have a last name of like, there's got to be someone.
That's why I'm always trying to help people with their bags.
Is that a Jeff
porter? Because he's a porter.
Oh,
it's true. I mean, I get it. Boom, boom. Good job, Jeff.
Yeah.
So I was like, God forbid we name our kid Gamble, even if it's BOL, because like that, you guys, gamble and gamble are two different things. Like gamble is to be happy and joyful and skip and gamble, and not to like, throw away your money at the slots. But he was also born in Nevada. So we were like, this is like that sort of double entendre that we were going for. And I was like, that's so cool. But if my child has a gambling problem, or if he becomes like a daredevil because we named him Gamble, I already have one child that's like, like not healthy. I don't need another
By naming him Gamble, you're just like creating the perfect indie movie character for a later in life character. It's like, well, my parents named me Gamble. That's why I live in Vegas.
That's why I have a gambling problem. Yeah, we almost gave him a middle name of Ace too, because we were like, that's cool. But our daughter's middle name is Grace. And we were like, that's just too on the nose, man. Yeah. So anyway,
you got a couple more G names from Harry Potter, by the way, if you decide to have a couple more.
Which
kids.
Ones?
You got Godric. You got
Goyle.
Goyle.
That's terrible. Oh, God.
Goyle is great.
Yeah, well, you want to go Lord of the Rings, there's also Gollum.
Yeah,
You know?
Oh my God.
no, we don't like Lord of the Rings and the Sackhoff house.
Oh my God. Look at you, Casper. No, we still like Lord of the Rings. We just
Word.
speed through the King, the Return of the King. Just kidding. Just kidding. Phenomenal movies. Love them.
Yeah.
All right. So I have a recurring dream that Katee Sackhoff is in a movie with Meryl Streep, Julia Roberts, Marina Baccarin in a women's prison, a falsely accused and convicted woman put behind bars for a life sentence. But Katee is the big bad in the prison and wears cornrows and does the shanking as an enforcer for the Meryl Streep boss running the prison, whose rival is Julia Roberts for the drug smuggling in the prison. And main protagonist is played by Zendaya. You guys, I'd watch the shit out of that.
It was an elaborate reoccurring dream.
Right? That's a really interesting reoccurring dream. I like everyone in that movie. I'm down for it. Let's do this.
Would you want to shank everybody that's in that movie?
I would. No, I'm just kidding. Although I just watched Dune 2, and I really, Zendaya is awesome.
Yeah, she's great. She's a phenomenon.
Great. Yeah, she's great. Next one. Is it a clown loach? Because mine are 25 years old, so there's that. You can also sell them for a good buck. My local store offered $300 per fish. Yours are 8 inches long. If I lived closer, I would totally take that loach off your hands. So, Valerie, now that you say that, yeah, I'm pretty sure it is, because like this thing won't die. So I'm assuming go ahead, Jeff.
Sorry, we're referring to your fish that you were speaking about, right?
Yeah, like not another child. So I have a loach that won't die, that an ex got me. My ex Scott, who is still super friendly with, love to death.
When you say won't die, it makes it sound like you've been trying to kill it.
Well, no, but like, I got home from, where were we? We were just in Vegas. For Granger's birth. And we were gone for like 10 days. And I got home, and our nanny, who stays to watch the dogs when we travel, I said, and she was saying, so I fed the loach on Friday. And I went, Friday? And I was like, it's Thursday. She went, yeah, once a week. And I was like, no, I feed him like every day. And she goes, no, you don't. And I went, yeah, I do. Or at least every other day. I was like, when I'm out of town, Robin, I have to call him and remind him. So maybe he's used to eating like every 5th day, but like a week? And I was like, holy shit, we got to feed this fucking clownfish. Like, and then I walked in and he was like, I'm still happy. Woohoo. Just been eating my own poop for 7 days. It's totally fine. So I haven't been actively trying to kill him, but everyone else in the house has. So he's traveled across state lines. He's like, this loach fish is amazing. $300. Mine's 8 inches long. Jesus, well, who knew?
Let's get some more offers in. Maybe we can get you more.
At this point, but who knew? That a loach was going to live as long as like a parrot.
Yeah, I feel bad though, because if you got somebody to buy it, they would probably get it home and the thing would immediately die.
It would. That's what would happen. Every time we move it, I say to Robin, its ecosystem is so perfect. He's like, you got to clean the tank. I'm like, no, he likes it. Don't mess with him. Don't mess with a good thing. He's super happy. He's like, I want to put him in a really cool tank so it actually looks cool. And I was like, oh my God, fine.
At this point, don't put any more work into it.
So I let him get this really nice, super expensive tank. And I was terrified. I was terrified that we'd messed with the fish and he was going to die. And I literally was having emotional problems about this moving the fish and dropping him in. And he made it. But the irony is that he's kept in our sunroom. And so the tank is dirtier than the old tank because it's getting all the sun. Whatever. He's fucking happy. You guys, let's get in the mail sack.
Mailsack, we're going to the Mailsack. Mailsack, why are we calling it Mailsack?
I'm glad we at least have one more video episode so people can see your dance.
Me too.
And now every time they hear it, they'll just be able to imagine you dancing.
We need to shout out the person that did that. Do we know
it was
who did
Nicolas
it?
was his name.
Nicolas from Germany.
Nicolas from Germany. And
Right.
we never really made a decision if that was the official song, but I've just decided that it is.
I mean, at this point it is. I love, and like I said, I also love that he's from Germany because to me it sounds like it belongs on Eurovision. Like he could have
Yes.
won Eurovision with that.
I don't think we could love it anymore. Thank you, Nicolas.
Thank you, Nicolas. All right, you guys, Mailsack. So
So go ahead. We asked a couple weeks ago for people to send us in some suggested acting roles for you, and this is what we got.
Jeff Winger's wife in the upcoming Community movie. You guys, if there's a Community movie, I'm on board. There probably isn't.
They are making it.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Joel
That's
McHale.
the completion of the dream. You know, there was that whole thing with what was it, 6 seasons in a movie? That was like what they kept chanting about Community, and they finally got their. I'm going to make sure that that's correct because, you know, these Community fans.
You never know with things though, right? Because like Sex in the City just like keeps coming back. Sex in the City is a clownfish or a clown loach.
It is 6 seasons in a movie. I was
Is it?
correct. Yeah,
And I love
that
me
was
some
like what
Sex in
they
the
always
City.
said about it, and now they finally got their movie, which they're working on now.
Wow. So yeah, I would do that. Hell yeah. An action comedy starring Katee and Joel as a working class couple living in the Pacific Northwest who quietly rally their neighbors and friends to pull up a bank heist when they get a foreclosure letter in the mail, working title, Rogue Valley. That would be really funny.
Is Rogue Valley an inside joke of some kind?
I mean, I'm sure it is. I haven't lived in the
Oh, okay.
Pacific Northwest since high school. Maybe the Rogue Valley. I think the Rogue Valley like exists in the Pacific Northwest. I think it's like a thing.
Yeah.
I
See,
think it's
this
called
feels
Rogue
like this is the first part of the trilogy, and the second part is the prison movie with Zendaya.
There you go. This one's funny. So Yellow Jackets. Katee plays a soccer player from the team. The Yellow Jackets were the team that the Yellow Jackets were supposed to face. She turned pro, but her career got cut short due to injury, leading her to a lifelong obsession with the team she never played. You know what's funny? My availability was just checked for Yellow Jackets. I don't think it went any further though. It didn't go any
Okay.
further. That would have been really
Would
cool.
that be
though.
for season 3?
Yeah, I guess so.
They just finished season 2.
Oh, then yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it wasn't
Maybe
that long ago.
this is a casting director trying to get your attention because you know they have to beg you to be in projects. I've heard.
They do. You know, I have said many times that I took so much time off when Ginevra went through her first treatment, but I never dreamed that like I would come back to work and then like the phone would stop ringing,
Right.
which is what happened. But then it's, you know, everything happens for a reason because
Yeah.
now I'm unemployed and available to be with my daughter every day, which is beautiful.
Getting excited about Yellow Jackets season 3.
Yeah. Please continue. Star Wars, you and Pedro Pascal are carrying it so hard right now. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. She ain't dead. Top Gun. I think your Avatar sunglasses, Avatar sunglasses.
Not the ones you got for free at the movie theater when your 3D glasses for
with my bucket of popcorn. That's
Yeah.
probably like the butt of an Avatar or something at this point.
Yes,
like I don't know
yes.
what they're doing with popcorn buckets. I mean, what is it? Did you see the one from Dune? It's like
For
a,
Dune, yeah, but a popcorn bucket that is just an avatar. What are they? The Navi, a Navi ass. They just sticking.
you have to lift the tail. You have to lift it up to get inside.
Oh my goodness! I just imagined you in the movie theater with your big old 3D glasses on, just
Whacking the person next to you with the tails.
Oh boy! Well, there goes getting in the next Avatar movie.
Oh, James Cameron, please. I was just gonna say though that like my daughter is like a big fan of buttholes.
What?
She has,
Children love that stuff.
so we try to accurately call her body parts by what they are, you know, like because like that's what you're supposed to do. And then I also saw this study that I don't even know if it's true or not, but that children who can accurately describe their sexual body part, like their reproductive organs, are actually less likely to be subject to being taken advantage of by an older person because they can actually talk about their body parts, and those children are not as desirable because they're not calling it a twinkle or something like that. They're going home and saying like, "Hey, my labia hurts." So I have a 2.5-year-old that talks about her vagina and her labia and her butthole, because to me, that was the accurate terminology for it, was butthole. But my point being, there's a series of books. There's a series of books called The Little Blue Truck. And it's all about farm animals and a little blue truck, and they all like get along, and like they're phenomenal books. I love them so much. But there is, in the illustrations of the first book, they all have buttholes. So my daughter goes
The
through.
trains?
No, they're not trains. They're animals. So they're like
Oh, they're
cows
animals.
and
Okay.
cows and ducks and chickens and pigs and so like she's gotten in this habit because she's so funny. You can hear her reading the book from the other room, and she just goes, butthole, 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 butthole.
So Top Gun.
Yes. I'm available. Look, I mean, I think that at this point, it's pretty obvious that I would class up your project. So
Yeah. No, I
You know.
could see you in a Top Gun movie. That feels like a movie you would slot into very well.
I think so too. But here's the deal. I feel like so many people, creatives in this industry, and we talk about this in the next episode actually a little bit, that they have no imagination. So like they'll be like, oh, well, we can't cast her. She's a blonde and the role calls for a brunette. And you're like, oh my God, are you serious? But then if you hit the nail too much on the head, like if you're too right for it, that was too easy for casting and the producers. They don't want that because they want to
Right.
be the one that found somebody to do something different. And so they're like,
Right.
we can't cast Katee as like a fighter pilot because like that's too obvious.
There's never been a blonde female fighter pilot.
I know, right?
Yeah.
All right. So next, step into a world where intergalactic diplomacy meets Old West charm as a roguish detective navigates a city where magic and technology collide in an epic saga of mystery and adventure. Sounds cool to me.
Yeah. I mean, that just sounds like like I just read the back of a book,
Right?
like in the young adult section.
In the YA section,
Yeah.
Backhanded
aka
compliment there.
Netflix. Right?
No, I mean, it sounds like a great story. Whoever wrote that did very well. You should write log lines for a living.
Who wrote
though,
that?
specifically?
YA log lines. Yeah.
Look, you guys, YA sells. YA is fun. The next one, I say rom-com for Katee and Joel. Here's the trick, Katee. Here's the trick. Katee is the comedian. You needed a comma there. I'm just going to let you know.
Talk to the person who wrote the previous one.
Here's the trick. Katee is the comedian and Joel is the straight man in a heist movie. Oh, wait. That was so much like the first one. Like everyone thinks that Joel and I would be good in a heist movie. Oh, and Trisha Helfer's the villain. Love Trisha. Trisha plays a good baddie.
Yeah, I can
That
see
could
that.
work.
I think the consensus is you and Joel need to do something together.
In a heist movie.
Some kind of crime movie, something. Two witty, smart talking criminals.
I think that he would make me a better actor. I do. I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
I mean,
those people that you work with that you step up to their game.
Uh-huh.
I love that. It's awesome. Chris says, I definitely think you could do more comedy with like the workaholics role, maybe on a show like Always Sunny or What We Do in the Shadows. Also, what about more cheeky villain roles like Amunet from The Flash? Chris, I love you. I agree with you. What We Do in the Shadows and Always Sunny are like two of my favorite comedy shows. And I loved playing Amunet. I thought that she was absolutely insane and I loved it. And for anybody that doesn't know, I was in Workaholics. I played a drug-addicted, alcoholic, homeless person.
Typecast, basically.
Pretty typecast. It was pretty awesome. And I loved it. And I would love to do more comedy. So Jake says, hi, Katee and Sackhoff showers.
What do you mean showers?
Showers? I think,
But the word
showers.
is showers.
Oh, I was like, is this a reference to me talking about being peed on?
Yes, that's definitely what it is.
So call them Sackies, like the Swifties, but for smart people. You guys, there's some really amazing Swifties in the world. Like, I mean,
You're not allowed to go after the Swifties.
Yeah, be careful.
No.
We're not taking
No.
any shots.
I'm not taking any shots. I love Taylor Swift. Don't come after me. And if you do want to come after me, watch the episode so much that it gives us money.
Hate watch us.
You just hate watch the crap out of us.
Yeah.
Robin says, I was catching up on the show and listening to your Kevin Smith episode, and you all were talking about a female equivalent of a bromance. Arguably, it's just friendship, because women don't need to find a label to mask intimate but platonic friendships, and men often do. I mean, yeah, it's sort of true, right?
That's true. Yeah. I mean,
It's sort of true.
well, I mean, this is like you kept saying that you wanted Joel to be your daddy, and you could just be friends with him. So it sounds like you might be masking some kind of relationship there as well.
Yeah. I did see a comment that said that that Joel and Katee have such chemistry. There's obviously something going on between them.
Yeah, they're planning a heist.
My husband saw it and was like, oh my God, that's so funny. People are so funny.
To be fair, I think anybody that hangs out with Joel, though, there's something going on between them, even
Right?
if Joel doesn't know it.
And his wife Sarah's like, it's fine. I get it.
Yeah.
Wayne says, are you coming to a Pacific Northwest con? Yeah, I would love to do a Comic-Con in the Pacific Northwest. The last one that was here, I was busy though. So Celeste says, my one suggestion, if you ever decide to announce upcoming guests/interviews, would you consider opening up questions from listeners, especially if it's a return guest? Oh, that would be cool. But yeah, I don't know, maybe a couple.
Yeah, I think definitely would be fun. The recording schedule sometimes doesn't allow for that, but I mean, you could announce who you're interviewing right now coming up, and maybe we get some questions.
Oh, right. So who am I interviewing right now? You guys, I'll go through my list.
Well, I know you've got Grace coming up,
Okay.
which I think we've mentioned Grace already, but
Have we mentioned Grace Park? We did. We mentioned Grace Park and Jewel State. So those are two. You could send some questions. Jamie King for the people that don't know Jamie. She's amazing. Like Edward James Olmos. Hello. Speaking of Top Gun, Jay Ellis. Super excited. Bear McCreary, guys. Adam Barley from Longmire. Lana Perea. And then just got an email today, Lou Diamond Phillips.
there we go.
So those are upcoming interviews. If you guys want to shoot over your burning questions, maybe I'll pull one from every person and sort of,
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Yeah, that could be fun. Okay. Yeah, that was the last. Was that the last question?
Yeah, unless you want to touch this F1 question.
Oh, shit, there's an F1
I believe
question.
it's also from Celeste.
Stop. Oh my God. How did you get into watching F1? I used to watch with my dad back in the Michael Schumacher racing days. My dad passed in 2019, so watching now is a connection to him. So sorry for your loss, Celeste. I love that you've got that to sort of feel like your dad is still with you. That's super cool. So I got into watching F1 because my husband likes F1. And I was like, no. Like I didn't need another thing to like, you know what I mean? And I was like, I already like football. I already, whatever. And he was like, what about if we watch Drive to Survive? And I was like, so I'm going to jump on that bandwagon. And this was like a while ago, you guys. This is like, it's gotten so huge now. And I watched like 4 episodes of Drive to Survive. And then I was like, immediately started watching the actual races and loved it. It was sort of that thing we were talking about with baseball with Joel. The moment I felt like emotionally connected to the drivers and I sort of knew who they were, I immediately was all in on the sport. Just like the mechanics and the technology of the cars to me was amazing. But then you throw into it how the phenomenal, the athleticism of these drivers as well. And Lewis Hamilton is hotter than shit. I was like, I'm in. I am in. Like,
Well, there's also only so many drivers, right? So it's easier to get into it. It's not like that. I often feel that with sports myself. I'm not a big sports guy, but it is like you do need to know so much about these players and their journeys and stuff.
Yeah.
That's always been the attractive part for me which with any other sport, it's so hard to do that. But when there's only like, 20 drivers?
20 drivers. There's reserve drivers though, and then there's F2 drivers that are also sort of vying for
All right,
seats.
you
And
lost
there's
me.
yeah. So it's like, there's so many contracts for next season and that haven't been announced in 2026, and it's really interesting to sort of see what they're going to do. And everybody has an opinion, and like it's so fun. It's so fun. I love it so much. I'm absolutely obsessed. And if my son grows up to be a Formula One driver, I will be so happy.
And Rich,
God, I'd never have to work again. It'd be
So
so
no
nice.
football, but Formula One's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I feel like that they're like in some way more protected in a weird way.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. We should research that. But I really
so
do love.
Lewis, so you rate Lewis Hamilton in terms of attractiveness? Because I feel like most people go for the Mercedes coach, right? Toto Wolff.
Toto Wolff? Do they really?
He's hot. Yeah, he's a daddy. Yeah.
Oh my God, Casper, you're so German.
Jesus.
He's not German, though.
You're not German.
Close enough.
It's all sort of in that area, right? I'm showing I'm showing my Americanism right now. Where are you from, Casper?
I'm from Norway.
Oh shit. Arguably better country.
Yes and no. But
Where's
let's
your
not.
pride, Casper?
Where's your pride?
It's very Norwegian, though, to be like, meh, it's fine.
It's true. It's funny. This is very much like school and America, and like my lack of geography is really, really, really poor. I did not pay attention in this sort of realm at all. And my husband every once in a while will say things like, when I say all the time that like where he grew up is just like go to Idaho and drive up, and like when I didn't know what the finger of Idaho was between, he was like, oh my God, you're so lucky that you're cute and talented because you're so stupid sometimes.
You didn't find yourself in a job that required to know where Idaho was.
Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah.
But I'm really sorry that I like miss sort of like country you, Casper.
No, I mean, I was going to say we can only retain so much information, right? And is geography that? I know a lot of men love geography, but what's the point of it? Like knowing where
do.
stuff is.
God, you make me happy. I agree. You just
Yeah,
get on
what is the point, Jeff? Go on.
get
make
on a
case.
plane and then get off, Jeff. What's the point
I
of
mean,
geography, Jeff?
I guess these days it's not as important, I guess. I don't know. I've always had a good sense of direction in geography. So,
Have you?
you know, yeah, I'm like the guy that if you're walking down the street and a stranger asks you where something is, I always know where to tell you how to get there and where to go.
Well, I do too, but they don't ask me where Norway is.
Nobody's asking you how to get to Idaho just randomly on the street.
I can also tell you how to get to like anywhere around.
But sitting right now, could you point what direction is north? You got a draft in your house?
The sun comes up in the west and goes down in
No.
the east, right? Wait, the sun
No.
comes. You're literally showing my lack of education. The sun comes up in the east
Yes.
and goes down in the west. I knew it was one
Correct.
of them, Jeff. God damn it! Now I'm offending all the Christians too. So this
You're offending all the people that believe in a round earth.
well, no, I said I used the Lord's name in vain. So
Oh, I see.
that direction right now, that's east. Never eat soggy waffles. That's north.
All
You're
right.
welcome.
I can't verify this information because we're in different parts of the country facing
true.
different directions. So,
But the irony is that in order to get to the freeway that takes you north, you have to go east.
yes.
So
Freeways don't follow natural laws.
they don't. But there you go.
Right.
I will never miss country you again, Casper.
You can.
I won't.
I don't. You're fine.
Europe is like so clustered together. This is like
It's true, yeah.
I hope I didn't lose people by them realizing that I don't know geography. People are going to be like, God, I used to think she was smart.
No, you're like of the people. We can relate to you. You
Yeah.
know?
Nobody likes directions.
Yeah.
It's normal.
Oh my God, save me. You guys, this has been a really fun episode. God, I would love to tell you. I should have told everyone about my trip to Skywalker Ranch.
Oh my God.
We'll get into that next episode, maybe.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah,
it was
I would-
amazing. It was amazing.
Did you meet George?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Have you met him already?
No.
Wild.
No, and I really feel completely out of it because there were so many other actors there that have all been to Skywalker Ranch before, and I was like, where has my invite been? Did it get stuck in the mail because we moved to Portland? Like, I mean,
Maybe.
how good of friends do you need to be with Dave Filoni to have already had an invite? Am I that good of friends with Dave Filoni? Maybe not. Maybe I thought I was good friends with Dave Filoni, but I obviously am not because I haven't been invited to Skywalker Ranch until right now for his 50th birthday.
And we'll do an edit point here where you just say, "I'm so happy that I was invited and had a great time."
It's true. It was extraordinary. We'll talk about it next episode.
Great.
Yeah. So I would anticipate that for next episode, Robin will be
Great.
back.
Great.
Yeah.
We missed him.
And go listen to that Mother's Day. I said Mother Days podcast that came out last Thursday with my friends Sarah and Teresa. It's a good episode. You'll love it. Support the Mother Days. Make sure to send all of your questions and your comments to the Sackhoff Show at gmail.com. And also for all of you people wondering where the fuck he's been, come on camera, baby. Say goodbye. We're just talking about see you next Tuesdays.
Bunch of CUNTs. Bye.
Bye. See you next Tuesday. That's what's up.